Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Joining me tonight once again as guest curator is John Loree, drummer for both Tantric and Smile Empty Soul. John, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Oh, very excited to be back. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Well, tonight's topic is one that has been requested actually multiple times, and considering it's Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary this year, there's been a ton of replays of Christopher Walken uttering that glorious line, "I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell." So, with that being said, John, I have brought you on for the tough task of finding the ultimate cowbell anthems in rock and roll. Now, as a drummer, I'm sure there's just a little bit of cliche in that terminology.
Yeah, 100%. This is like if there could be a joke that everybody beats a dead horse, this is the one. This is the one that, the minute you even touch a cowbell or reference a cowbell, this is the thought that everybody goes to, is the Christopher Walken, Will Ferrell thing. But it's fantastic. I think it's an underrated instrument, and I'm glad to be the guy talking about it tonight, that's for sure.
Well, John, as a drummer yourself, narrowing down songs that include cowbells in a meaningful way is almost as obnoxious as me asking you to say, hey, man, tonight we're recording an episode on rock songs that have a kick drum.
Yeah.
But there's something about hearing the words cowbell anthems that actually narrows the list down, for me at least, immediately. What was your mindset with the songs you're going to bring to the table this evening?
I think the mindset was songs that had a prominent cowbell part, number one. Something where the cowbell stands out. And that's not all of them, but it is a big part of that. Like, what is the cowbell doing in this song that adds to the song, right? As a musician, we want to add to the song. We don't want to take away from it. So these songs are mainly about that prominent cowbell part, but also the party aspect. We're talking about anthems here. So songs that by the cowbell part, you could pretty much recognize what the song is or where it's headed.
And I think the only thing I'll add to that is the songs that I've chosen tonight, if you were to remove the cowbell from the song, it would make that song a completely different experience. So I'm not saying that the cowbell is 100% essential to the song, but if you remove it, the song loses a lot of what makes it what it is.
Totally. And there's also, people don't realize it's not just one cowbell that exists. There are multiple different styles of even playing a cowbell that can add or take away from a song. And these songs that we're picking tonight definitely add to these tunes.
Well, let's get down to business. Tonight, as I mentioned at the top of the show, John and I will be curating the ultimate Cowbell Anthems mixtape, and we'll use the old cassette deck approach. John, as my special guest, will begin side A with his first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows up that choice. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out 10 songs for side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time I'll kick things off with John choosing second. Our overall goal for the episode is to craft the best Cowbell Anthems mixtape possible through only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you could take our conversation to the next level by visiting the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com to give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a part of the Patreon Mixtaper community at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you'll find ad-free episodes of the show, gain immediate access to future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, hear exclusive bonus banter clips, chime in on upcoming show topics, become a future guest, and so much more. And a few of the Patreon mixtapers chimed in with the songs they would use to kick things off tonight, and I want to give a quick shout out to a few of those. Brandon from Virginia chimed in with Clutch's DC Sound Attack, saying this peon to our nation's capital and our homegrown sound, Go-Go, needs to be included. Tom Hutchison chimed in with Little Sister by Queens of the Stone Age. Philip Bergman chimed in saying Blue Öyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper is obvious, then asks if a half-measure cowbell solo counts, while adding the Turtles' She'd Rather Be With Me as one of his song choices. Seeker chimed in with Blame It on the Love of Rock and Roll by Bon Jovi. Sean Goff said because he, quote, can never get enough, he would start with Night Train by Guns N' Roses. And Chad Lamassa chimed in with Cake's Short Skirt, Long Jacket, as it's the theme song for his all-time favorite show, Chuck. Once again, if you'd like to chime in for future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, come join the Mixtaper community at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. And now, John, I'm officially pressing the record button on our Cowbell Anthems mixtape, and you are officially free to explore the space with your first Cowbell Anthem of the evening.
That's beautiful. That's really well said. I love that. The first one that I have to go with is probably my all-time favorite cowbell groove, honestly, ever. It may be tied for first. I'm going with Dance the Night Away by Van Halen. Alex
Nice.
Van Halen, once again on one of my mixtapes, but he has to be there, especially this cowbell part that kicks off the whole song. And like we said, it's becoming a party. The cowbell introduction makes this thing a party. And so with that starting it, it's like you're setting the tone for the rest of this song. And the reintroduction of the cowbell that comes in the very middle of it.
From 1979's Van Halen 2, the song reached number 15 on the Billboard US Hot 100, number 28 on the Canada RPM chart. Ted Templeman's wall of sound production is on full display in this monster of a jam. There's something about Dance the Night Away that David Lee Roth just brought that party energy to the sound. And Dance the Night Away really took it to that next level. If you listen to the songs on Van Halen 1, you know, Running with the Devil is not your party anthem. Janie's Crying's not your party anthem. This was Van Halen realizing that they could kind of lean into what Diamond Dave brings to the table, I think. I think the original name of this song was supposed to be Dance Lolita Dance, but then Eddie decided that Dance the Night Away would be a little bit more accessible. I think he hit the nail right on the head with that one. Now, if you're a ska punk fan, The Forces of Evil, which is a side project of Real Big Fish's Aaron Barrett, covers the song as a ska punk tune on their Friend or Foe album, complete with horn section. Highly recommended, but absolutely love the pick to start things off for tonight. So following that up, I like the way that you opened your first pick of the evening with a song that starts on cowbell. So I think I'm going to copy that. Only Dance the Night Away started off kind of musical. Like Alex was kind of like getting you into the groove already.
Yeah.
But on Mountain's Mississippi Queen, Corky Lang is just counting the band in, hitting that cowbell 7 times so hard that you would think he was trying to murder it. And that aggressive opening, the way he's hitting that cowbell, you know you're about to get a monster of a song. And it absolutely was. From 1970's Climbing, it reached number 21 on the Billboard US Hot 100, making it the band's highest ever charting single. Spin Magazine has called this the Cowbell Jam to end all cowbell jams. And Spin also ranked it number 1 on their 2004 list of the 15 greatest cowbell songs of all time. Then, because we're talking You Know Me and cover songs, Ozzy Osbourne on his Undercover album did a version that features Leslie West from Mountain. And then, John, I know you know this one. Blackstone Cherry on the FYE exclusive edition of their album Kentucky, they do a massive earth-shattering cover of Mississippi Queen. I almost went with that, but I have a song from Blackstone Cherry in my list for tonight, so I kind of want to leave that door open if we go down that direction. So following up Dance the Night Away, Mississippi Queen.
That's a great track. And especially like you said, when we're talking about the nuance of cowbell, sure, something like Dance the Night Away is great because it's a more musical version of the cowbell. But Mississippi Queen as the point of just counting off the band and being this blistering quarter note cowbell part is perfect for what this song then brings in. And then all those covers that you listed as well, especially the Blackstone Cherry one, is fantastic. And they stay true to that cowbell part being in there on that song. So great choice. Love it.
So what are you going to follow that up with for track 3?
I'd like to go with something that's more of a buried cowbell part and maybe not something that starts off with a cowbell. And I always have to throw this band in on pretty much every list that we've done. But I'm going to go with Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
Zeppelin 1. We've talked so much about Zeppelin 1. I feel like just you and I have talked over the years about Zeppelin 1 so much. And not just that this part is the drum part that turned heads off of Zeppelin 1, because everybody's like, what's he doing with that bass drum? But not only that, it's not something that is on the hi-hat or a cliche drum instrument. He's playing that part, the verse part, on the cowbell, a very small little cowbell, and it works perfectly for the verse of this song.
Oh my God. The opening track too. You hit me with the Led Zeppelin bomb and the opening album track. I love it. It reached number 80 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 64 on the Canada Top Singles chart, and number 17 on the Netherlands Single Top 100. Of course, you scooped me on John Bonham. I mean, I think we're up to, I don't think there's been an episode that we've done, even the Eric Church Playlist Wars episode. I think somehow Led Zeppelin came up. I don't know. I don't quite know how, but I had 2 songs from Led Zeppelin in my bank for tonight. Good Times, Bad Times, just from the opening of the doot, 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 because it's so rhythmic. It's John Bonham playing the drums, but also percussion simultaneously. I'm not a drummer, but I feel like what he's doing is incorporating the drum beat and the percussion together in the opening of the song.
Right. No, and I totally, maybe I misspoke, but not being the thing that necessarily counts off the song was where I was going with that. It is a musical part of this, especially that bam, 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 and then he kicks it with the bam, bam, dun, 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 dun. That little counter rhythm there over top of everything else is just fantastic. And yeah, that definitely, it's a testament to Bonham's musicality on the kit.
Oh my God, he's one of the best. I actually had, like I said, 2 songs from them, Good Times, Bad Times from Led Zeppelin 1, and I had Moby Dick from Led Zeppelin 2, because it's also used really well throughout that song, and it drives that song's kind of rhythm as well. And I can't picture, like I said, either one of these Led Zeppelin songs without the cowbell. It would certainly take something away from the song not having them in there.
Right, I totally agree.
And just to throw in my covers, Ace Frehley, Godsmack, Beth Hart, and Cracker have all covered this song, and they're all actually pretty solid ones as well. All right. Coming out of Led Zeppelin, I have to give a hat tip to one of the fellow mixtapers, and I am going to go with Sean Goff's pick of the night from 1987's Appetite for Destruction. We are going Guns N' Roses' Night Train. Reached number 93 on the Billboard US Hot 100, number 17 on the UK Singles Chart, number 61 in Australia, and number 2 in Ireland, among some others. Night Train is not the first song people mention when you say, hey, name a song you like off Appetite for Destruction. However, don't let that fool you, because in 2017, Paste ranked Night Train number 3 on their list of the 15 greatest Guns N' Roses songs. And in 2020, Kerrang ranked it 5 on their list of GNR's 20 greatest. So this is a fan favorite song. It didn't hit the charts the way Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, and Paradise City did, but you cannot remove Night Train from Appetite for Destruction. It makes it a lesser album, and you cannot remove Steven Adler's cowbell from this song. Again, I'm using it kind of in a count-off fashion, but he also uses it in that open rhythm that kind of drives the song and keeps it going. And you pull that cowbell out and you do that on a ride cymbal or a hi-hat. And I think it changes the groove of the song. And one thing that why I personally feel that out of all the drummers, Steven Adler was the perfect fit for Guns N' Roses was his feel and his swagger. His timing is like a human metronome, and his swing that he brings to the songs is something that not a lot of drummers throughout the years of Guns N' Roses have been able to do. I'm not saying that they're not look, anybody who's sitting behind the kit for Guns N' Roses is an incredible drummer, but there was something about Steven Adler's swing that he brought to the songs on Appetite for Destruction that I don't think has ever been replicated.
Yeah, I totally agree. And with this song being that blistering, like, it almost works as an opener. I've never seen Guns N' Roses live, so which I'm very ashamed that I haven't. But this would work as like the opening song to kick off a concert for sure. And it is a fan favorite. I've got cousins that love Night Train. This is the jam. This is the pump up song. And that cowbell not being there would make it a lesser song. I definitely agree with that.
All right, so with that, we are throwing it back to you for track 5.
Yeah, if we're on this 80s kick, we might as well stay there for a little bit, because one of the other great cowbell intros is Twisted Sister's We're Not Gonna Take It. That's like when you're a drum student and you finally get that cowbell, you're like, how do I figure out how to play that groove? Because it's not your straight cowbell groove. It's not your straight count off. It's got this great tripleted ba-da-da-do, ba-do, ba-do, do, ba-do, do, ba-loop. It's just a fantastic cowbell part. Like you said with Night Train, had you put something like this on a ride cymbal or on the hi-hat, it would be a lesser song. Something about it being that beat you over the head with a cowbell sound is fantastic for a song about not taking anything from nobody.
Oh, the drums are pounded in that song like they owe rent money. Like that, there's something about From 1984's Stay Hungry, the song reached number 21 on the Billboard US Hot 100, Twisted Sister's highest charting song. It also hit number 6 in Canada and Australia, number 58 in the UK, number 10 in Sweden, number 2 in New Zealand. In terms of cover songs, I mentioned them once already. Real Big Fish interpolated the melody of We're Not Gonna Take It in their song Everybody's Drunk to We're All Gonna Get Drunk, We're All Gonna Get Drunk, oh wait, we're all ready, long pause, drunk. Anyway, Weird Al also used the song in his Hooked on Polka that was featured on Dare to Be Stupid, and Twisted Sister themselves re-recorded the song as O Come O Ye Faithful for their A Twisted Christmas CD, which I love that so much. I mix that right in with the holiday classics. And every year when that happens, my wife looks at me and she's like, really? And I'm like, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, totally. And all of those are great covers of them too. Not to mention though, that I do agree with that Twisted Christmas record is fantastic. They did they were a party band, not to be taken seriously in their image, but maybe in their musicianship and how they played these songs. Fantastic group. Underrated.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep us in this 80s rock vibe, but I'm going to go with a song that actually came out in 1991. And the reason I say 80s rock vibe is because in 1988, 1989, Skid Row exploded. So for some reason, I always equate them to that late 80s, because in 1991, you had Pearl Jam's 10, Red Hot Chili Peppers' Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Nirvana's Nevermind, even Metallica's Black Album. People tend to forget that the hair bands and bands that were hair band adjacent still were releasing music that was still very popular. And on 1991's Slave to the Grind, Skid Row released, which is my absolute favorite Skid Row song ever, Monkey Business. Reached number 13 on the US mainstream rock chart, number 59 on the Canada Top Singles chart, number 19 on the UK Singles chart, and number 31 on the Australia ARIA chart. I mean, when I say it's my favorite Skid Row track, it's not close. I love Skid Row's catalog, even outside of the Sebastian Bach years. I have pretty much everything they've ever released. And 1991 was a big year for me. It was 8th grade and freshman year in high school, and Monkey Business immediately became one of my workout / pump up songs. I used it in sports. I still use it to this day when I'm on the treadmill. The song just friggin' drives my energy. Rob Ofuso's drumming on this track is an absolute masterclass because he uses the cowbell to count the song in and out, and he uses it to drive the heavier parts. But when the song breaks down, and you have the Vaseline gypsies and silicone souls dressed to the society, he does this rhythmics very similar to what John Bonham does in Good Times, Bad Times. He does a kind of a rhythmic play on it, where it's no longer driving the pacing of the song, it's being used as a fill. And that track is so massive, it's literally going to be 35 years old in 1 year. And I honestly think if you play that song now, any rock band breaks that song out, it feels just as modern in 2025. I feel it's timeless.
Yeah, it is very much a timeless track. And I did happen to see Sebastian Bach last year on a whim. He was in town in an area that I was in Illinois, and I was like, I gotta go see him. And we had some friends that wanted to go. So we went, and he pulled out Monkey Business, and it was fantastic. He still sounds fantastic, which is a testament to his age and his ability to just keep the thing going. His son, Paris, was on drums.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and believe it or not, I took drum lessons from Paris years ago.
Wow.
Like, I'm saying years. And at that point, Paris and his dad were not talking. And so you couldn't talk to Paris about him and his father. But then we got to this show in Illinois, and I'm looking at the drummer. I'm like, I know this guy. And I'm like, that's Paris. I can't believe they worked things out. And now he's playing these parts to all these Skid Row songs, just absolutely crushing them. Monkey Business being definitely one of them. Of course, he had the cowbell and he did all the things. But yeah, you couldn't do this song without it. But yeah, it was a really great treat to watch both of them play together.
All right. Well, now we're throwing it back to you for track 7.
Fantastic. I'm going to go with another. I feel like we're on the Mount Rushmore of cowbell parts. And this is one that's not subtle at all. It, again, opens up a track in a fantastic way. It's such a great groove and one of my favorite jam bands pretty much of all time. I'm going with Grand Funk Railroad's We're an American Band. Nice. This intro is so good. This is, like I said, there's between Dance the Night Away and this song, these are my top 2 favorite cowbell songs ever. And this intro is so fantastic, especially the drum part that then comes after this, all those foot triplets. It's just a great groove.
That it is, from 1973's album of the same name, produced by Todd Rundgren. The song reached number 1 on the Billboard US Hot 100, number 4 on the Canada Top Singles chart, and number 1 in Australia, and ranks number 99 on the list of VH1's 100 Greatest Rock Songs. It's been covered by Poison, Rob Zombie, Autograph, Phish, Jackal, Rascal Flatts, Kid Rock, Garth Brooks. I mean, every genre you could think of, somebody has covered We're an American Band. And believe it or not, the only time in my life I've ever heard We're an American Band played without a cowbell. A couple of years ago, Metallica, when Kirk and Rob do their little solo section of the night, they do their little doodle. They came out and played We're an American Band, and James came out and sang the song, but Lars didn't. So it was a drumless version of We're an American Band by Metallica. Of all the times that you would think Lars would sit in, not on this one?
That just makes me mad because whatever. All those other covers, that makes up for it. Especially, I love the Rob Zombie one. They do it justice. And you gotta have the cowbell in there. This opening drum part is the song. Like, everything else that comes after it is fantastic. It is an American Band rock song. But yeah, this drum part is what kicks it off. You could play just this and ask anybody in any crowd what song this is, and they would know it. It's just, it is the song.
And I think to follow that up for track 8, I'm going to go with something that is a song that when I say the name, a lot of people might raise an eyebrow because the song name isn't really synonymous with the track. And the original song charted in Germany. It reached number 44. But since then, it's been such a hugely influential hard rock tune, especially to a lot of these 80s bands that we've been talking about, Guns N' Roses being one of them, as they took this song, Hair of the Dog, originally by Nazareth, to number 11 on the US mainstream rock chart in 1994. And they're not the only band from the 80s that covered this song. Brittany Fox covered it on the Boys in Heat album, and Warrant covered it on the Under the Influence album. This song drove that 80s hair band sound, that 80s metal hard rock sound, and it was a decade earlier. And I feel like this is one of those songs that Hair of the Dog, and people will go, I don't know that. Now you're messing with a son of a bitch. Oh, I know the song you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is Nazareth's Hair of the Dog. And during that riff, you've got that friggin' almost distorted sounding cowbell. And without it, again, the heft. Even if you're hitting that ride cymbal, the bell on the ride cymbal, I feel like you lose a little bit of the strength of the song.
Yeah, there's something about having that hook in that song with a cowbell that just makes the most sense. You know, they did a great instrumental choice to have that be the hook of the chorus and then also have a cowbell in your track. Like, you are setting up the 80s for sure in that, which is, it's great, but you are totally right. Nazareth is a very underrated group that people don't necessarily think of as being as influential in the 80s as they were. And great album art, by the way.
Oh, it's incredible. The album's an absolute masterpiece. Hair of the Dog, if you haven't heard it, look it up. When you're done listening to this episode, of course.
Yeah.
So now we are back to you, John, for track 9.
Yeah, I was thinking about songs that, and this is actually a very hard thing. We haven't talked about how difficult it can be to pick tracks that have influential cowbell parts in it. This one is maybe not on the side of being an influential cowbell part, but had it not been there, I don't think this track would be the same. I'm going with Burning Love by Elvis Presley. And you might be going, where the heck is the cowbell in that? It's in the second verse, going also into the second chorus. When you have a song that is ramping up, adding in instruments, things like tambourines or shakers or whatever, can sometimes take one verse of a song and change it going into the second verse. You're adding another instrument to give the thing some life, so that way you're not hearing the same thing over and over again. Burning Love does a fantastic job of that just by keeping time as quarter notes on that cowbell going from verse to chorus. I love this song.
Oh, the song's incredible. A single released in 1972. It reached number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and Canada Top Singles chart, number 7 in the UK, and number 37 in Australia. I'm going to go back to them again, John. Blackstone Cherry covered this song on the Walmart Deluxe Edition of Family Tree, though ironically, and you might know this more than me, I'm honestly not sure if John Fred Young is actually using cowbell in Blackstone Cherry's version.
No, he's not. And that, not that I care, they can do no wrong in my opinion, but that's just me. They don't have the cowbell in that track. I'll have to listen again, but I was listening as a precursor to today, and I don't think so. I might have to go back and just make sure, but I'm pretty sure it's not there.
If it was, it would have been very, very subtle, if that at all.
Right.
But I also want to point out that, again, random obscure covers, Woody Harrelson covered Burning Love for the Zombieland Double Tap soundtrack. So I just want to remind everybody of that instance.
Yes.
And to close out side A, I am going to be Captain Obvious. Let's just get this out of the way now, so that way side 2 could be a clean slate. Blue Oyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper. Like Philip Bergman said, we are going Captain Obvious to close out side A. 1976's Agents of Fortune, Reached number 12 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 7 on the Canada Top Singles chart, number 17 in Ireland, and 16 in the UK. It was Rolling Stone's Song of the Year in 1976, and in 2007, the magazine ranked it number 405 on their list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. But more importantly, it was responsible for the More Cowbell sketch, and may or may not have served as inspiration for this episode. So, as obvious and on the nose it is, it would be criminal not to include. Christopher Walken would be mad at us if we did not include it in this
That's
episode
right.
tonight.
I agree, and that's the thing that is unfortunate. I love the sketch, don't get me wrong. One of the best SNL sketches ever. But I do feel bad that this song has kind of become a joke in a sense because of the sketch, instead of being taken seriously as the song that it is, the fantastically orchestrated rock song, especially the middle of this song, the very creepy time change going into that middle. It's a fantastic track outside of the joke that it might be for the cowbell.
It's a dark track, and I think that is what makes the sketch so funny, because the song is so dark. Had they used Mountain's Mississippi Queen, it would have just been Will Ferrell hitting the cowbell as hard as Corky Lang did on the Mountain album. The humor wasn't there. But in the ethereal nature of Don't Fear the Reaper, the overly emotive Will Ferrell smashing that cowbell adds to the humor of the bit. But I do applaud the fact that you're bringing up the song, because the song's brilliant. And I think that is why, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think Blue Oyster Cult's mad about it, because I'm sure they got a lot more streams on Spotify than they would had that skit had never existed.
I totally agree. And I'm sure they're not upset about it. There's some essence to being able to laugh at yourself as a musician a little bit and be able to deal with a joke like that. And from what I see, they play into it a little bit and they're totally cool. So yeah, the track though, by itself, if you have a chance and you haven't listened to it in a while, I really suggest you go ahead and listen to the rest of that track.
I'll even take it one step further and say listen to the entire Agents of Fortune album, because that's a classic as far as I'm concerned. But that, mixtapers, concludes side A of the Ultimate Cowbell Anthems mixtape, which consists of Van Halen's Dance the Night Away, Mountain's Mississippi Queen, Led Zeppelin's Good Times, Bad Times, Guns N' Roses' Night Train, Twisted Sister's We're Not Gonna Take It, Skid Row's Monkey Business, Grand Funk Railroad's We're an American Band, Nazareth's Hair of the Dog, Elvis Presley's Burning Love, and Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, John, you've been pulling double duty with Tantric and Smile Empty Soul. Can you catch everyone up on what's been going on in both camps?
Yeah, it's been pretty hectic in my world, which is definitely a crazier time, but definitely not something I'm complaining about because, the ability to play in Tantric as I have been for about 5 years or closing in on it, and then also being able to join up with Smile Empty Soul, who I've been a fan of Smile Empty Soul when we toured together as Tantric and Smile, but even further back than that, when I was 8 years old or so, they had a song on the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, which I was, and still am, a huge Spider-Man fan. And so when I was a kid, that was one of the first CDs I ever owned. The Smile Empty Soul song, Who I Am, on that album, it was one of my favorite songs ever. And so being able to then play that live with the guy that wrote it is really cool. So there's been a lot going on. We have a couple of tours coming out, which is both bands at the same time. So I'll be literally pulling double duty in March and in May. And yeah, I'll be doing both bands at the same time. And it's been a juggling act for sure, but it's been a lot of fun and I'm really excited about it.
I guess the plus side is you're making the sound man's life a little bit easier on that tour, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. And it's great for me because I can leave the kit set up and I don't need to just tear it down or move it or whatever. It's fantastic.
And you don't have to deal with any other drummers as well, right?
No, and that's also, I hate to say it, that's a great thing.
Well, with that, I'm going to kick off side B. And now we have a clean slate. The Don't Fear the Reaper elephant in the room has been addressed. So to kick off side B, I'm going to go back to 1969. And I'm going to go with a song that reached number 1 in the US, the UK, Australia, Denmark, Ireland, and New Zealand. And it ranked number 2 in Canada. So I love all my friends up in the Great White North, but guys, you should have made this a number 1 hit as well. So for shame. Rolling Stones, Honky Tonk Women. Believe it or not, the cowbell in this song is not played by Charlie Watts. It's actually Jimmy Miller, the incredible producer who worked with the Stones on everything from Beggar's Banquet through Goat's Head Soup, which just so happens to be my all-time favorite Stones era. And I got to see the band for the first time live in 2024. And one of the highlights of the evening for me was when they broke out Honky Tonk Women live. I have a really, really, really high up, almost airplane level footage of the Rolling Stones playing that at MetLife Stadium. I'll throw it up on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com if you want to hear how the Rolling Stones sound 55 years after the original song was released. And I'll tell you what, rest in peace, Charlie Watts. I mean, amazing, influential drummer. Steve Jordan is an absolute monster, and he has breathed some real life into the Stones live show. And I think if there was anybody to carry the torch for Charlie, Steve Jordan's the man.
What's interesting about some drummers in the circle, they'll think that Honky Tonk Women is a Charlie Watts cowbell part, and it's not, which I'm glad that you brought that up. But also, the Rolling Stones sometimes get mislabeled as being a total rock band, and they were kind of going for country. A lot of their stuff was going for country. And so this is one of those stereotypical Rolling Stones attempt at a country song, and it is one of their massive hits. Cowbell part, though, had it not been there, it's a very musical cowbell part. It's not just beat you over the head with a cowbell part. This is a very musical part, and it's great that it's in there, and the song definitely wouldn't be the same without it.
All right, so what are you following it up with for track 2?
I'll go with something of a similar nature then. Also a band that does have a lot, not to say that the Rolling Stones have Southern roots, but very Southern inspired. I'm going to go with CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival's Down on the Corner,
Nice.
as being another great cowbell part that sometimes gets overlooked. What we're talking about, the lightheartedness that a cowbell can bring to a song is the lightheartedness of the song Down on the Corner. Lyrically, it's a song about being in small town America, and that is what this song does. Had the cowbell part not been there, I don't think it'd be the same song.
The song that inspired the album name, Willie and the Poor Boys, same year as Honky Tonk Women, 1969. Can you believe, I know this is a little tiny sidebar, Creedence Clearwater Revival put out 3 masterpiece albums in 1969. Willie and the Poor Boys, Green River, and Bayou Country. Holy shit. What a year
Yeah.
for Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, that is 3 massive influential albums in one year. That's just unheard of. But this song, Down on the Corner, reached number 3 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 4 in Canada, number 5 in New Zealand, and number 2 in Germany, among others. Jerry Reed in 1982, you mentioned the Southern rock thing, took it all the way to country and did a country version that reached number 13 on the US country chart, number 11 on the Canadian country chart. But Jerry's version's cowbell-less. So it's country. And look, I love Jerry Reed. I mean, come on. Eastbound and Down, one of the greatest driving songs ever. Jerry Reed was also incredible in The Waterboy, but I digress. the original is the definitive. The calypso vibe that they bring out in Creedence's version gives you that, I don't want to say Zydeco, but there's that little bit of New Orleans swamp kind of coming through the calypso. It's all different things. And again, God, 1969, 3 albums in 1 year. Just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, it blows my mind as well that and so prolific for that time, and to bring stuff that was already pretty much dated around the late 60s into then the limelight is fantastic. They're a Southern rock band, probably one of the, Mount Rushmore Southern rock bands. And to have all that happen within 69 is absolutely nuts.
Well, Honky Tonk Women is 1969. Down on the Corner is 1969. And I'm based out of the U.S. So for me, the first... Well, not for me personally. I wasn't alive in 1969, but I digress. We're going to stay in 1969 as the U.S. version of this song was released on his Smash Hits compilation in that year. And I'm going to go with Jimi Hendrix, Stone Free, originally released in 1966 as the B-side to Hey Joe. It was later included on the U.S. version of Smash Hits. It fared better in the UK as it reached number 6 on the singles chart there, only reached number 130 on the Billboard US Bubbling Under Hot 100 singles chart. But as far as I'm concerned, charts be damned, because it's been pretty much featured on every Jimi Hendrix compilation since, and is a classic Jimi Hendrix song to me. When my parents first bought their CD player in 1991, one of the first CDs my dad grabbed was Smash Hits. And this was one of the songs that really resonated with me. And I think that's because of the cowbell. Mitch Mitchell gets the MVP on this track because, I mean, look, it's Jimi Hendrix, one of the best to ever do it. There has to be a level-to-level match in skill to order to hang with Jimi. And Mitch Mitchell in the 1960s hung with Jimi and made it just effortless. Like, he had the skill of a jazz drummer that he brought to rock music. And the way he works the cowbell in this song, it's heavy as hell, but it's almost jazzy. So that's why I'm choosing this one.
Yeah, Mitch Mitchell's jazz influence in a lot of this early rock and roll is what makes him one of the best drummers ever. He was totally a jazz drummer, and being able to throw in another musical cowbell background instrument to what Jimmy's doing is fantastic. Stone Free, underrated track when you're thinking about Jimi Hendrix, but I'm glad that you chose this one because it definitely should be in the spotlight for great cowbell parts.
All right, so now I'm throwing it back to you for track 4. Where do we go from a trio of 1969 songs, if you're in the U.S., of course?
Yeah, if you're in the U.S. This one is one that I enjoy because I'm kind of like a jazz funk nerd too. Aside from being in the rock world, I do love a lot of jazz, and I do love a lot of behind the scenes stuff too that you sometimes don't see or wouldn't know if you're not like a hardcore fan. But I'm going with "Grazing in the Grass" by Hugh Masekela, who is from South Africa, who was a part of Paul Simon's Graceland band years later. But Grazing in the Grass is a great track. It's almost a comical cowbell, the way that it's so like almost 16th notey or really fast 8th notes. And it's comical, but then what will kick in after that cowbell part is the great melody that he brings to the table.
Well, you went back a year, 1968. Not bad.
I didn't know that, so I'm glad that you checked me on that one. But that, yeah, whatever, it works. We're still in the same vein, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and this was a number 1 on the Billboard US Hot 100. So as much as it was a jazz tune like you're talking about, mainstream success. And a year later, bringing us right back to 1969, the Friends of Distinction released a vocal version of this song, which was also a top 10 hit. But I don't know, maybe it's because there is the cowbell in the Friends of Distinction version, but there's something about Hugh's performance in that version where you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's it's not comedic, but it's almost to that point of the hell is happening, where you could almost take it as a novelty because it's really overworked in the song. But if you take it out of the song, a lot of the swagger's gone.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Totally.
This actually is inspiring me. One, to bring us out of the 1960s here for a minute. But I actually have a weird way to connect the songs here, to connect the dots. I am a big fan of Phish. I have seen them many a times. I love the jam band scene. We have a Phish episode coming up very soon here on My Weekly Mixtape, so stay tuned for that. But when I think of Phish, Grazing in the Grass feels like a song that they would play during a set break. It's got that jazzy kind of sound that Trey is a huge fan of and that Phish has incorporated into their music over the years. But the way that Grazing in the Grass's cowbell is kind of overt and over the top, I'm going to bring us back to something just a little bit more driving. However, still musical. And I'm going to go with 46 Days off of 2002's Round Room. I'm going to also go with the 6-minute and 14-second studio version because there are some live versions that they open it up for 15 and 20 minutes. But I feel like in this playlist, sticking with the studio, I mean, going to Phish in any playlist is going to raise some red flags with some people. I understand that. But if you're a Phish fan, you're going to see the connection going from Hugh Masekela to 46 Days. It's just perfect as far as I'm concerned.
The jam band thing kind of lends itself to be, like you said, a little bit jazzier and a little bit more involved, and almost like you do think about the cowbell being a prominent part of that track, specifically the studio version, like you said. I don't think I've listened to any of the live versions, and so you can correct me if the cowbell's there or not.
Oh, it's definitely in the song live, for sure.
Okay, good.
And there's something about the cowbell where if John Fishman was doing it on a ride cymbal, where you're doing the doot, 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 I feel like it's, and again, I feel like this is like a dissing ride cymbal episode, and it's really not. Because I love the ride cymbal, and I love the use of the bells in specific parts of the ride. But the bell on the ride cymbal and the bell on the cowbell are so far removed from a musical standpoint as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I think what you do get out of the difference between a ride bell and your cowbell is your cowbell has very minimal sustain. So it's just like articulate. And then when you get to a ride cymbal, you're still getting the rest of that cymbal out of that. And even on a cowbell, you'd be surprised how many different places you can actually play on a cowbell than just the edge of it. It's a very musical instrument when you get down to it. A lot of these jam bands that we've already mentioned do that super well.
All right, well, we're moving on to the second half of side B. What are you going to for track 6?
Yeah, we've kind of been on like a jam band kick for a second, and I don't think they get enough credit being labeled as a jam band, but I'm going to go with Red Hot Chili Peppers off of Stadium Arcadium. I'm going with Chad Smith's underrated Readymade track. This is a great tune, great cowbell part just in the pre-chorus going into the chorus. It's a bold statement to throw in a cowbell into your song. And even Chad Smith himself says that if you're throwing in a cowbell, you're telling people it's time to party. And Readymade is kind of one of those tracks for me.
I'm going to say something here that might ruffle some feathers, but this might be my favorite song on Stadium Arcadium. How this wasn't released as a single. I understand that the songs that the Chili Peppers in this era were getting popular were a bit more of the softer side of the Chili Peppers. And this one is a heavy-ass riff. I mean, this borderline something that Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine would write. And it's done in Chili Peppers fashion. The cowbell, again, I think brings out a rawness to the song.
Chad Smith is so prolific as a drummer that he has his own LP. I think it's called the Red Hot Cowbell. that LP came out with Latin percussion. So that is, like, if you're talking about great cowbell parts, that's definitely on this track for sure.
And you know what? I wasn't going to go to this song because every song we've chosen tonight has been cowbell centric. But because I mentioned them and I'm thinking about the riff, it's too perfect to not go with Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name Of from their 91 self-titled album. Now, I'm not lost on the fact that for the most part, the cowbell is only in the beginning of the song, the doot, 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 doot. That's it. However, that opening, it's done so musically, getting the two different pitches. I feel like it's a different way of utilizing the cowbell. So while it's not a central part of the song, if you pull it out using the criteria we've been using the whole night, that part of the song would just drop. And I can't picture the opening of Killing in the Name Of without that.
You even hear that if any band covers this song live, you go to the dive bar on a weekend and you're hearing a band kick up this riff for Killing in the Name Of, and that cowbell part isn't there, you're like, wait, hold on, something's missing here. It needs to be there, as any of these other songs have shown, and it's not a big part of the song. I really don't think, I listened to it again, don't think there's any other cowbell other than that one part. But what a great addition, where most people would have opted for silence, that he was able to add in a cowbell part of all things into this. It's just a fantastic use of the cowbell. And like you said, differing pitches, which is a great musical way to use the cowbell.
And when it was originally released, never charted in the US, but it hit number 25 on the UK singles chart, number 7 in Australia. However, in 2009, a DJ in the UK petitioned listeners to purchase the track the week before Christmas to prevent the winner of the X Factor from getting the number 1 spot on the Christmas UK charts for the 5th year in a row. And they did it. Killing in the Name Of in 2009 became a number 1 hit in the UK for Rage Against the Machine. And then a decade later, in 2019, the song reemerged on the US Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart, going as high as number 25, because the song started receiving a lot of airplay based on a lot of the political situation that was happening in 2019. So this is the song that just keeps on rising from the dead. And as much as the cowbell's not prominent throughout the song, you take it out of the track and it's a different song completely.
I agree, 100%.
All right, we are getting down to the final 3 here, so we're back to you for track 8. What do we got?
I couldn't not talk about this song. There are a couple on here that are more of my stretches of, all right, this is a cowbell song, maybe the Elvis one or whatever, and that might be my own bias. But you can't have a playlist about cowbells without talking about the opening cowbell part to Lowrider by War.
Nice.
That bump, 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 bump. Not only that, it's in between a muted cowbell and a not muted cowbell. So it's a very musical, like we were talking about with Rage Against the Machine, a very musical way of utilizing the cowbell. More in the Latin groove of how you would use a cowbell, how it might just be one person assigned the cowbell part. This is what you get out of Lowrider by War.
1975's Why Can't We Be Friends? It reached number 7 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 6 on the Canada Top Singles Chart, and number 12 on the UK Singles Chart. Yeah, dude, there's no way we're doing this episode without this song. My parents had War's Greatest Hits growing up. I knew this song. And it's one of those songs that you don't have to know what it's about. As a kid, when that song came on, I would just want to grab a pair of sunglasses, put them on, and just walk around the house feeling cool, because that song, that song oozes swagger. It oozes cool. You know the Snoopy cartoon when he's Joe Cool? This is the song that's playing in the background. It has to be. And it's been covered by everyone from Blues Traveler, which is a jam band, to Korn, which is metal. And somehow it works in all those facets because the song just oozes that confidence. And it's so musical, and it's just a perfect pick. And for my last song of the night, I'm going to stay in kind of a similar vein in this Latin vibe. And I'm going to go with, because I haven't dropped a cover song yet. I talked about it on Side A when I wanted to go with Black Stone Cherry covering Mississippi Queen, but I'm going to go with a cover now. This song was originally recorded by Tito Puente in 1962, but it exploded when it was released on Santana's 1970 album, Abraxas. I'm going with Oye Como Va, which hit number 13 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and Australian Singles Chart, along with number 7 on the Canada Top Singles Chart. In 2001, it was inducted into the Latin Grammy Hall of Fame, and 1 year later, the Grammy Hall of Fame, and in 2021, it ranked number 479 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. Santana's band on Abraxas is just insane. These players are top-notch. And again, to be able to fit with a player at the talent level of Carlos Santana, it's similar to the way Mitch Mitchell, sitting behind Jimi Hendrix, Santana has such a distinct, unique sound that you immediately pick up on. If you're not able to fill that musical backdrop behind him, he's going to outshine everybody on the stage. And the lineup that he put together on this album stays pace with him. And that's why songs like Oye Como Va completely overtook the original by Tito Puente. It's a totally different version of the song. If you haven't heard Tito's version, go back and listen to it. It's an eye-opening listen if you've never heard it before. But I feel like coming out of war, this really kind of is a nice back and forth from the Latin side of the cowbell.
Yeah, and if we're in that Latin vein, you wouldn't have a Latin song without aux percussion. We played the Tito Puente version of this in a jazz band recital in college years ago, and I was the cowbell part, and kind of full circle moment for me here. But you can't have these a Latin song without all of the aux percussion. Just drum set alone doesn't do it. So whether it's claves or shakers or a cowbell, it needs to be there in order to drive the rest of the percussion of the song along.
All right, well, we are back to you now to take us home, man. Last pick of the night. We've had 19 classic cowbell jams. What's the cherry on top?
Oh, man. Well, I guess you read my mind because we both are.
I didn't even think of that.
That's great. That is good. That is good. Leave it. Oh, what is the cherry on top? Well, I guess. No, and the thing is, I feel like I've done this before on this show, is I've added in maybe like a last hit that isn't really something that people would consider, but I think it's something people should listen to. One of my favorite bands that also doesn't get enough credit as a jam band is Black Stone Cherry, and their song off of Magic Mountain, Me and Mary Jane, is a fantastic cowbell song that drives a chorus of a song with cowbell. That doesn't happen a whole heck of a lot. So John Fred Young utilizing the cowbell in the best way possible of this blistering stoner rock track. This song is just fantastic.
Considering how much I've talked about him tonight, that was such a moment there, because I've said put the cherry on top several episodes across this 100+ episode run. And as soon as I said it, I'm like, John's a huge Black Stone Cherry fan. I wonder if, and then you went to it, I was like, son of a bitch, perfect.
That's great.
I love it. Hit number 16 on the Billboard US Mainstream Rock Chart. Probably it's tied. I honestly, it's tied for my favorite Black Stone Cherry song. It's either Me and Mary Jane or Blind Man. Those two songs to me are neck and neck, depending on the day. This band is so awesome. How they're not one of the biggest rock bands on the planet is literally beyond any comprehension that I could possibly have, because they are so extremely talented, so tight, and just so heavy. And they bring that blues sound to their music. They bring that stoner sound to their music, and they're able to kind of veer from Southern rock to blues to the stoner sound effortlessly.
Totally. They'll even take something like the very middle of this section in the song and jam it out in a live show for more than just the amount of time that's on the recording. So they're, again, one of, like you said, very underrated. I have no idea why they're not one of the bigger rock bands out there, but they just have such fantastic musicianship, and they work so well outside the box, especially John Fred Young, the drummer, who just has great drum parts overall, but stuff that most drummers would just go, I'll just throw in a regular groove here. He's like, no, let me think of something different. He's very much out of the box, and that's what you get with a cowbell part in a chorus of a song.
And there you have it, mixtapers, side B of the Ultimate Cowbell Anthems mixtape, which consists of the Rolling Stones' Honky Tonk Women, Creedence Clearwater Revival's Down on the Corner, Jimi Hendrix's Stone Free, Hugh Masekela's Grazing in the Grass, Phish's 46 Days, Red Hot Chili Peppers' Readymade, Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name of, War's Lowrider, Santana's Oye Como Va, and Blackstone Cherry's Me and Mary Jane. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, John, you talked about the March and May tours for both Tantric and Smile Empty Soul. What does the rest of the year have in terms for both bands? New music tours?
Yeah, hopefully new music in the Tantric camp. We've been working on stuff, so we're hoping that stuff will start to roll as we go further. Smile Empty Soul has a new EP that's dropping called the Swan Song EP. Unfortunately, I wasn't a part of it, but all the tracks on it are fantastic. So I highly recommend you go out and listen to it. And then really the rest of the year, we've got the Creed cruise, the Summer of 99 cruise with Tantric. That's in April. And then just tour until the new year. It's just like the year just started, and I already feel like I'm looking towards 2026 already.
That's awesome, man. Well, I am sure we're going to catch you when you go through New Jersey. Why don't you remind listeners how to connect with you on social media if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, John's Drum Studio, JONS Drum Studio. That's my Instagram. You can find me, John Loree, JONLOREE, on Facebook. I post a lot of nonsense content on both of those pages. So if you want to laugh about music with me, go ahead and give me a follow if you want. And then johnsdrumstudio.com if you need to connect with me about drums or just want to chat.
John's Instagram is one of my absolute favorites. You did a skit recently about a cowbell that was friggin' brilliant. And I was like, what timing? Thank you so much for being on again, man. Always a pleasure talking music with you, and look forward to having you back on very soon.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
And to all those listening, remember, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can find ad-free episodes of the show, gain early access to future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, chime in on upcoming topics, become a future guest, and so much more. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.